This video is set to go public at exactly the 13th of April, 2025 at 4:50 p.m. And that's because at that time, I joined the MSEM server exactly 1 year ago in 2024. The first messages I sent on that server were getting a league role, a color role, and the key role. And then the next ones were all league pings. It's truly, like, I don't want to be cheesy, corny, whatever, but it's been an amazing year, and this is the most fun I've had playing Magic, and it's super awesome, and I'm glad everyone here is a part of this. Since then, I've sent 6,710 messages on said server. I've built hundreds of decks, and right after this, I will be submitting for my 12th GP. In the past, not full year, but just 6 months, I've played 192 games. It's just amazing, and I can't thank everyone enough for this, but, let's move on to what everyone wants to see. What am I actually doing? What am I talking about? Well, boom. We're talking about Phoenix. I know. I'm sure all of you know Phoenix is my favorite kind of deck, and I will be going very in-depth for this guide, just, talking about what goes on in the deck, how I build it, how I play it, whatever. And yeah, the vast majority of this will be deck building, but yeah, let's get straight into it. Starting off with our table of contents. What is Phoenix? Our card breakdowns, which is turn payoffs and everything else, a sample deck and overview, some variants, and then closing thoughts. So let's start. What is Phoenix? So when you think of Phoenix, you'll think of, the Phoenixes. Miyoga Firebird, Whisperwords Phoenix being the big one. Illuminated Firebird, kind of in the corner there. Miyoga Firebird is similar to Arclight Phoenix, which is, the canon deck Phoenix. So yeah, but let me tell you something. It's not just these birds. It's not just these, right? Because I'm not talking about Phoenix as a deck. I'm talking about it as an archetype. So let's just continue here. So what Phoenix is really about is your turn and payoffs. So for example, we see our turn, you've got your lootings here, you've got your Firebirds. Actually, wait. Wait, no, I don't need to on slideshow. Wait. I think OBS can see the laser pointer. Yeah, alright, that's great. It's about, your turn, with your lootings, drawing and discarding two, and then your payoff stuff like your Arclight and Miyoga Firebird, Unearth for that variant, and Unseasoned Flames. But those are just examples. We'll get into talking about the actual cards more. So now let's talk about the deck core, which is literally just this. I mean, I already talked about this. You're churning through your deck. That's why these are churned, right? And this is what you get for churning through your deck and dumping so many cards, drawing so many cards into the graveyard, right? So yeah, let's move on. So let's take a look at what is doing the churning. So you've got our lootings, which Glimpse Beyond, Wheat from Chaff, Unquenched Greed are the most common ones. Our mills, Oracle's Vision, Fleeting Thoughts, Wedget Charm, Against the Waves are a few examples. Thrills, Runner's Release, Salvage, Gift of the Phoenix, and Test of Forsaking are a few examples. And everything else, two examples I have here are Nightmare Riders and Breaker of Secrets, and we'll get into those soon. Let's start off with the main thing that is used, which are the lootings. So, Faithless Looting, obviously named after this card, which is one of the most powerful canon cards. And yeah, it was banned in Modern for a while, recently unbanned. Is like single-handedly revitalized, is it Phoenix, as a modern deck. And yeah, well, not single-handedly, but it made it from like completely rogue to like possible to play reasonably. And then Careful Study, obviously, is another example of one that is older and in blue. And our cards are a lot more similar to Careful Study than Looting, because Looting, obviously, is red, it has a flashback, it is better than Careful Study. Whereas ours are undoubtedly worse than Looting, but still quite good. Alright, I guess we're throwing them all up at once. Unquenched Greed is literally just Careful Study, but you got that hybrid red. Glimpse Beyond can be a divination, but you're almost never doing that, so this is effectively just careful. And View from Chat investigates, making it easily the best out of these three. So yeah, core line here, draw 2, then discard 2. This just lets you, again, churn through really, really quickly, get through your deck, and yeah, let's... Next up are our millers. These are things that are going to mill our deck, which puts stuff from the top of the deck to the graveyard. So these are 2 cards that mill 4 with minor upside. Notably, this is an instant, which works well with Mina, but this can give a Nightmare's Unseen token flying. We'll get into those cards later. But yeah, just showing off what these cards each individual do. Oh, wrong one. Then we go to Oracle's Vision. This is just pretty much a better Thoughts Tower towards the Sork, but it also mills 3. My secret lair, by the way. Then we've got Against the Waves. As a lot of you probably know, this is my favorite card of all time. I remember the days when this used to mill 2 at default. Now it just mills X instead of X plus 2. And then you just keep conjuring, duplicating, and it just scales out of your mind. And then eventually you mill the opponent, sometimes mill them out in a grindier game. And it's so fun. And yeah, also this is my champion promo for being league top 4 a few seasons ago. Thrills, it's named after Thrill of Possibility, obviously. This canon card. Pay 2 mana, discard something, draw 2. And these are 1 mana versions. Discard a non-land or take 2 damage. Usually, in my experience, Creative Salvage is better, but it really depends on how much life you are paying. Runner's Release is notably an instant, but instead of drawing 2, one of those 2 is effectively just a discard fodder. So again, works well with Mina if you need more red spells, if you need more this kind of things. Yeah, you take it. And Test of Forsaking is basically a looting. That's an instant if they pay 3. Otherwise, it is... Oh, sorry, if they don't pay 3, it's basically a looting. That's an instant. If they do pay 3, it is slightly worse. Yeah, it's definitely an option, I'd say. As for other, Lose Your Mind, good value late game, maybe. In my experience, this card is just too slow for this deck. But it is an interesting option. So, like, Spirit has basically the same effect to Spirit Script on the front half, which is draw 2, then discard. Sometimes you'll just straight up draw 2, often in the later game, and then you can flash it back for effectively a looting from the graveyard. Yeah, also an instant, notably. Break Our Secrets, this is literally just a mill 3 from the graveyard. I lied. It procs Ceaseless Stalker, and this is extremely relevant, because Ceaseless Stalker is something that's going to come up later in some of the decks we talk about. And lastly, Nightmare Riders. This is just straight up mill 2 from your graveyard every single turn. And yeah, this card is quite good. There's a reason I don't play this in more decks, and we will get into that kind of thing when we go towards the payoffs, but this is one of the best mill pieces. Payoffs. I guess, yeah. How long has it been? I mean, yeah, we managed to get through that within 10 minutes. I may come back, go into more detail, but let's go to our payoffs. We have our creatures. So stuff like the Yoga Firebird, which is basically Arclight Phoenix. Whispered's Phoenix and Ceaseless Stalker are some other ones. Spells, Nightmare's Unseen. Often these are going to scale with our graveyard size, so as you can see, Nightmare's Unseen, 1 mana but 5 life to make it token equal to the number of cards in our graveyard, which is insane. Pressure is just, you need threshold to cast it for this. And a few other examples are Latent Potential and Unceasing Flames. Everything else, here's Zerat. This is an insane tempo threat. I'm going to get into these more detail later, so we can just... Alright, birds. Mega Firebird. This card. 3 mana, Flying Haste, 3/2. Whenever you cast your 3rd instant or sorcery spell each turn, you can return it from your graveyard to the battlefield. This card plainly is nuts. You get to cast 3 spells in a turn, you get back this 3/2 for free from your graveyard. And it is obviously pretty easy to cast 3 spells in 1 turn with the deck that is designed to cast a bunch of 1 mana spells to turn through your deck. And it's easy to get things in the graveyard because you're dumping things into the graveyard. This is the reason the deck was called Phoenix, because we were using this card in the original Broken, I'm going to call it Broken, yeah, Phoenix build, because, I mean, if you're around during that time, that deck was insane and dominating, but during that time, Firebird was our only graveyard returner. And that's because it was just the best. Later in the month, I added in our next guy, which is Whisperwood Phoenix. And this is actually one of the reasons I do not run Nightmare Riders in Phoenix. So if you look at this, if you discard it, it's also one of the reasons I cut Against the Waves. So, yeah, this card is effectively stocks up over multiple turns, like a Firebird. It makes it a token, which isn't very relevant, but could be relevant in other decks. It also only has 2 power, which is very notable, but it is just functionally extra copies of the better bird, and that consistency matters a ton, right? So, yeah, this is one of the main reasons we don't run mill in our decks, because even if there are some very good mill pieces like Oracle's Visions, we have enough density in discard pieces to use only discard pieces, and that can proc this bird, whereas the mill pieces sometimes get a field bad, and it isn't really worth it. So I've definitely thought of cutting Whisperwoods and making alternate builds with more of the better mill pieces, and we can get into that kind of stuff later when we look at deck lists and variants and that kind of thing. I will likely be coming back to these slides, just talking more. But yeah, let's continue. Illuminated Firebird does not have haste and cannot block. This comes back whenever you draw your second card each turn, which makes it actually quite awkward when you draw into it later in the turn, but it comes back at the start of the next turn. So essentially this thing is a 2-turn wait to attack with it, and again, it's only 2 power, can't block. Overall, this card is not worth it in normal Phoenix, but you do play it in Dredge. And yeah, we're gonna get into Dredge later, but yeah. Last bird is Suisei, the Southern Star. I have considered this one over Illuminated Firebird. So, this does not have haste, notably, again. Oh, I need to stop clicking. But you also have to pay mana, and it also requires an MV2 to 3+ spells, and also is legendary. So actually maybe Illuminated Firebird is better. So this requires a lot of things, but it grows, and it's gonna be bigger it's gonna start being bigger the more and more you get it. So it kind of functions like Mizzix, if you think about it, almost, because you're increasing that counter for each spell you've cast, and you're getting more value off of it. So you're based on the mana values. Dredgers. Oh, this needs it's supposed to say needs setup, but I'm missing that. So yeah, Ceaseless Stalker. It requires another thing to come back, and it comes back at the end step. But it is a 3/1. It is quite easy to proc, so it is the best. Breaker, we brought this actually up in the consistency section, and this procs Stalker and similar effects that care about creatures entering from the graveyard. And yeah, this is basically just Oracle's Vision minus the draw, but from the graveyard, so you're actually going card neutral. So it is effectively almost an Oracle's Vision from the graveyard. And yeah, again, it procs Stalker and similar effects. Danny Champ, very good. It also comes out from the hand, if you notice this pressure cost here, but it costs mana and does not give you anything other than a body. So yeah, but this card is very good. I've run it in my Dredge list. It's got Death Touch for really big things. It is big itself, so it is quite important. Quite good. Krypnar is extremely trivial to proc, but it's a small body and you can only control one of them, which is insanely important for making this card probably not playable in Dredge, but rather in other kinds of decks. Let's look at our payoff pieces in our spells now. These are the scaling spells. So starting off with Nightmares Unseen, mentioned earlier, this one is easily the strongest, but requires you to play black. And obviously you've got that pay 5 life there. If you're running the risk of losing Tino, aggro, that kind of thing, you maybe do not want to be paying that much life, but it makes a massive token, and pressure is pretty trivial for these kinds of decks to turn on. Usually you'll be doing this by turn 3, you can swing in with like 10/10 pluses on turn 4. latent potential. This is a new innovation I will talk about more in depth when I get to the Phoenix with the deck breakdown. But this scales based on the number of instant sorceries, but it needs evasion. Now you might notice, the birds have flying. So this works very well in Phoenix, but in something like Dredge, where your creatures don't have as much evasive abilities, it is harder to get this one to work out. Alright, I've moved slightly because the place I was before is very cold. Like, extremely cold. It's like sealed off and doesn't have a heater, so it's way colder than everything else. So, I've gotten a blanket. So, yeah, let's now continue. Unceasing Flames. This scales based on the drawing of the cards you're drawing, because this is similar to Against the Waves in that it's a conjure duplicator, which means the more you cast, the more you get, the more you burn, etc., etc. Well, let me not show Against the Waves yet. And yeah, this just kills people. It acts as a removal spell. It's just good. And you keep casting it, drawing, casting, etc., etc. This is the champion promo, actually, of One Phoenix Won in Phoenix Month with the broken version of the deck, which we can actually take a look at. But next up, we've got Against the Waves, my favorite card, my promo. This thing scales, again, like Unceasing Flames. It draws, it mills, it does everything the deck wants to, and also acts as a win con if you get more. It snowballed super heavily back when it had the base mill too. So this used to be X plus... I'm doing some great writing here. It used to be X plus 2 cards. And yeah, wait, let me do that again. X plus 2. I know, kind of crazy. And I've got other spells. Okay, I procrastinated writing stuff here, so I guess I have to go into detail on why Relive Reality. So, this card it's better than it looks, I promise. 2 mana sorcery. You give something in your graveyard flashback. It's a Snapcaster. But it's from the graveyard for 1 mana. And also discarding a card, but you want to discard. That's actually an upside, is that you get to discard to this. It's a discard from the graveyard that also has even more upside. And then you can flash back things like Latent Potential, Unceasing Flames to kill people. You can flash back your lootings to churn more. You can do so much with this card. It is legitimately ridiculous how many things that this one card does. I will again talk about more applications later when we get to the deck list. I'll talk about each individual card interacts with each other in that list, in each of the lists I'll be showing. Spirit's Grip. This works well with our scaling conjure duplicators, these two guys here, because these count the cards named Against the Waves, named Unceasing Flames, and what Spirit's Grip does is becomes a copy of that spell and therefore gaining its name. Unearth, this is a whole other deck type. When I talk about Unearth, I will talk about Unearth. And then Words of Eternity. So this is a card that not many of you probably have seen me play with, because this card, the way this card works is I need to manage my stuff whenever I'm checking OPS. I have to make sure that when I click back in, I'm ready. Alright, so Words of Eternity. This lets you chain, actually don't have the card pulled up. This lets you chain the Wicker Screech in Gatstaff, because this has Foreshadow 13, but you're reducing this to 0, and you get to pop something when it enters if you do the Foreshadow. But you also still trigger it when it dies. So if you legend rule this, you get 3 pops of having 2 of them. So Words of Eternity lets you turn 1 of them into 2 of them. Also 50 slides. Oh my god, I forgot how I made this slideshow. And then Zera, obviously, we've seen all the way back here. This, oh, my laser pointer's gone here. Where it costs 1 less for each and sorcery spell, pumps out tokens, bounces stuff, draws, but that, I am going to bring that card up in the future, so let's continue. Other payoff pieces, our other payoff pieces in our reducers. These obviously reduce mana. So this is an insane tempo tool. It's 2 mana, easily enabled on turn 3, and you just slap him down turn 4 usually, because turn 3 you want to be getting your birds back. Bounce a thing, make a token, do whatever. He's hard to kill because he de facto starts at 5 loyalty if you make the token, and then you just keep churning out those tokens, and it is just genuinely kills people, draws cards. It does so much. It actually has a whole deck type named after it with Zergtide. The card's nerfed, but it's still nuts. So yeah, let's move on to the next one. We talked about Wicker Screech. It's a very evasive body, Flying Menace Trample, so it's very good with latent potential. It pops multiple things. It attacks for 3. It's 0 mana if you do it right. You're often casting it, like you can cast this for 2, 3, 4 mana even. It's rough, but it's not like that terrible. Rini, this card is kind of like Zerat, where it's a 3/4, and once each turn when you cast an instant sorcery spell, you make a 4/4 white angel, you make a Sarai angel, and it costs 1 less for each instant sorcery in your graveyard, but it requires double white pips, which means that most Phoenix decks are not able to run this because you don't run white. And again, that's very big. Yeah, so it's the reason that you are not seeing Rini in very many of the builds. I have a build of Phoenix that is long gone. Long gone, has gotten so many nerfs to it. Oh my god, that deck. Which is, actually, you know what? Let's go to that deck. Oh, Windows, don't be annoying. Oh wait, Dread Rise is down. I can't pull up that deck anymore. No. That deck was 4-color Herald of Oblivion's Against the Waves Self-Mill. Back when this card was 1 mana. Almost all bolt lands. I love that deck so much. Let's continue. Into Aridi Valley. This is a separate build of the deck, and it's multicolored Phoenix. And you cut with Roots Phoenix because you want to run Oracle's Vision for this. For Into Aridi Valley, and this just draws 4 cards. You also run Parrot Pools in this deck. So it's a very different version of the deck, because this, whenever you cast a multicolored spell, and then it also draws cards, right? And so you're milling your stuff, and there are actually quite a few pretty good multicolored spells. Like we saw Unquenched Greed, you've got your Oracle's Visions, which you saw as well. Those are multicolored, they're hybrid 1-mana spells. You also have there's Lava Spike, that kind of thing. And that can get you a lot. That's a lot of multicolored spells that will reduce it. It's a very fun deck. It is worse than normal Phoenix, but it is more fun, in my opinion. Next up are returners. So these are stuff that's returns from your graveyard to your hand depending on a condition. So, small luxuries. This used to be the best, but now it is just the most consistent. So, like, the worst case, you play this, just draw a card, exile it, you don't care. You cast it off me if you don't play black, but you get the idea. It comes back every single turn, just consistently and nicely. The Whisperwoods is actually the best one, and I'll explain why. So if we look at small luxuries, let's check out the changelog. The trigger was changed from this, which basically let it come back every end step. Now, what does the Whisperers do? Come back effectively every end step, because most of the time players are losing life. And the accomplice I'm mentioning is Anthis' accomplice. because this draws and discards every turn. And yeah, so you do that, you get back the Whisperwoods. Maybe they lose life to a fetch or something. They, take damage, you get back your Whisperwoods, you draw, you discard, you go, and it's like a double Phyrexian Arena at 1 mana. It is a very nuts interaction, and used to get to do that with Small Lux, but now with the Whisperwoods, it's basically the same thing, and that's actually partially why Small Luxuries got nerfed. Shikai Revenant, it's just worse Whisperwoods, but it doubles as a creature, I guess, instead of a land. These two are not very good. I won't go into too much detail. Can be used twice in the first turn, which is pretty good, but also, you don't really want to. This is better in like sacrifice shells, like Pitchpire before Egg got nerfed. Let's take a look at mana bases. So you got to start off your palaces. These lose life unless you have less life than an opponent, and they're just untapped dual lands. These are like better pain lands. They're quite good, and you play them in your deck. A Nebula, this is just Bolt Land plus Shock Land plus. It's just everything. You play this in every single deck. Your Bolt Lands, this is what I mentioned. You pay 3 life, and they're Tri-lands. Usually you're only running Denovice because you're traditionally only really running Izzet and Grixis. And then lastly, you've got your paths, which are kind of like ultra fast lands, but also have cycling, which is huge. So now let's take a look at a sample deck and more of an overview of that specific sample deck. So let's talk about Mina. We have not talked about Mina yet, so let's talk about it. Mina is a mana dork, but it's also sometimes soul written. Because this thing lets you cast the first instant or sorcery spell each turn for free. So if you play a sorcery, then an instant every turn cycle, that's a sorry. That's not gonna happen. Half the time, this is just a mana dork that lets you Phoenix turn 2, that sometimes also lets you cast an extra instant for a free extra mana. Next up, Myoga Firebird. I use this lair version. Thank you for making a lair of Myoga Firebird Silver. There is another one, but I don't like it very much, to be honest. Sorry to the person who made that one. But this one's cool. This is the one I use. We went over Firebird. It's basically an Arclight Phoenix. It's the heart and soul of the deck. It is everything you want. It's coming back. It's hitting for 3. It's just perfect. Whisperwoods Phoenix, the slightly worse alternative. Again, only procs on discard, 2 power, but it can save up over multiple turns. But that also means if you discard it as, for example, on your second spell, you won't get it back like you would with Myoga. So obviously much worse than Myoga, but you still play it just because you need a density. Distant Thunder, this is what I meant when you can use Mina as a Soul Ring. Now this card, again, never brought up, but this is actually something I'm putting in over Unceasing Flames, because it works well with Mina. The discard will often be an upside, and it is the same as casting 3 scaling. Your first 3 unceasings are the same as your first 3 distant thunders in overall damage, and your first distant thunder is better than your first unceasing. So that is really just important to know. Even if it makes you discard, again, works well with Mina. And with the loss of Creative Salvage, we were really looking for another instant, and I think this fills that gap perfectly. Small Lux comes back every turn. It's just that simple. Again, another instant that can be cast off Mina if you need the draw. Wheat from Chaff, best looting. It investigates, again, helping you churn through the deck. Get your Phoenixes, getting your Small Lux in the graveyard to return, discard, churn. Keep churning. You also get that clue if you run out of gas, which you will run out of gas. Trust me. This is just, again, careful study. Draw 2, discard 2. That's it. Relive Reality. This card started out as a 1 of, then a 2 of, then a 3 of, and I mean, yeah, like I said, this card is nuts. It deserves to be a 4 of. That is new before I was running it at 2 or 3, and it totally should be a 4 of. Every time I play with this card, it feels better and better, and I just love it so much. It is perfect for the deck. Also, yeah, I got a lair for it. For me top cutting with Phoenix in Phoenix month. You know what? I want kind of want to actually go look at the Phoenix Month deck list after this, so you can take a look kind of at how the deck has evolved. What I was running in GPL as well, we should take a look at. So we can just, do that after I go through all this and the variants and the deck lists. Glimpse Beyond, it's another careful study, don't need to go over that. For Latent Potential, this is similar to Relive in that it used to be a 1 of, then a 2 of, then I just straight up put it to 4. And the reason this is starting out is because it started out actually in our Words of Eternity as a tutor target for it. If you need to finish the game after casting a Wicker Screech. And this card, it scales with the number of instant or sorcery cards in your graveyard. Your creatures have flying, sometimes haste. You just can OTK out of nowhere sometimes with this. You on turn 3, you can, if you have a bird out, usually on turn 4, you have a bird out, you go cast a spell, Latent Potential, then Relive Reality, discard another thing, and Latent Potential again. That's usually going to be game. You've got 3 Creative Salvage as another turn option. I don't really need to go over this, it's just more turn. The turn pieces in the deck, I don't need to go over them as much as the discard piece, as the actual payoff pieces, but again, yeah, we can't run mill pieces, so this is the next best option that discards. Opalescent Palace, Path, Whisperwoods, Nebula, Heist Headquarters. Now, a lot of you are probably looking at me as Psychopath, knowing that this is the extent of my mana base. 17 lands. And the Whisperwoods is only really half a land. So this is 13 real lands. Am I a psychopath? Yes. Does it work? Also, yes. You can keep 1-landers very easily. You can mulligan 0-landers, keep 6, keep 5 even. Keep 5 is very rough, but you can function fine on a mulligan to 6. Because obviously your careful studies, they are card disadvantage, technically, because you're spending 3 cards to draw 2. But yeah, you get the idea. You're turning through, you're dumping stuff in your graveyard, which is good for you, and that's why you play them. Right? So they, on the face, they're card disadvantage, but every Magic player knows they're not. Now let's look at the sideboard. Oh, these copies are bugged, but are they bugged? Yeah. This is my current sideboard. Now, this is actually very different than a lot of the sideboards I was running before, and a lot of you might notice there are 2 new cards in here, those being Civilization's Cost and Beneath the Zadina. So, why am I running Beneath the Zadina? Well, just take a look at the card on the right. This is the most popular piece of graveyard hate in the format of MSEM. It is free. It targets. So, in a DP, if I know my opponent's on readout, I can board in my Beneath the Zadinas, and as hate against the readouts. And yeah, that's why it's in here, because this card is so relevant, I need to put in this specific hate card. There isn't really a way to hate against Mass Grave Hate, and this is the next best option, so I think this is what I'm going with. Next up is Fire Erasure. This kills Hate Bears. It kills, decks that rely on small creatures. Putting this down from 4, it's an instant for Mina. This card's very good. I'm considering cutting one of these cards, maybe cutting Civ Cost for +1/0 +1 Erasure. So let's talk about Civ Cost. 1 red, it's a flashback. It can just burn your opponent to death, deals 3-4 damage to them, which, it also, something I've learned with Imperial Siege, it can get them to play scared, make their mana base worse for you. So, even if you don't board it in, even if you don't even flash it back, it can make your opponent play around it and be better than you would think. So I think this is actually a good card in the sideboard to have as more of a scare piece to force your opponent to play around it more if they're on a fetch mana base to fetch their basics. And it, like I said, with Imperial Siege, similar things happen with my big red deck in that. Seeing the Starlight Rays, my opponent plays scared because they're scared of getting blown out. And then sometimes those blowouts do happen, but even if they don't happen, the simple presence of the card makes your opponent play around it, which makes you gain more of an advantage. Zerat, we went into it. It's a huge tempo tool. It is genuinely just amazing. makes tokens. They have flying as well. It's just insane. Also, timed amazing art for this in MC25. I was using this as my custom art when you posted it a while ago. So yeah, times if you're watching it, thank you for this. It's amazing. So this is just the full deck list that I was talking about here. You got your sideboards, your main deck. You've got 8 instants for Mina, compared to your 23 sorcery. You've got 17 land, 12 creatures, 4 Mina, and then 4 of each bird. Next up, let's talk about variants. I don't have the fancy full deck list thing that I had for Phoenix, with all the cards, with the copy numbers and stuff, because that takes a lot of time to make. This Crystal shape 4. Okay, thank God I didn't mess that up. Let's take a look. Okay, Phoenix, that's literally just the deck was from before. Let's take a look at Dredge. And now, there's a lot of cards in here you probably have not seen, because I didn't talk about them. Let's talk about Hero of Schengen Province. Hero of Schengen. This is a, what set is this? TOJ. Alright, this is a TOJ card. And this 3 mana from the graveyard, activate only if it's in your graveyard, effectively makes your things unblockable. So yeah, it's good. And the card you're using this with is, again, your Nightmares. Unseen token is going to be big, and then you make it unblockable, and you kill them. The biggest weakness of Nightmares Unseen is that the token has no evasion, and this card just fixes that. Then we have Breaker of Secrets. We wanted to. It's a mill 3 from Graveyard. It procs Stalker. It just does so much. It gives you more things to spend your mana on. Illuminated Firebird is plain and dredge because it is fine as something that comes back, even if it's quite slow. Again, it procs your Seats Stalkers. Run 2 Firebird, and the reason for this is we've gone for less instants or sorceries in this deck, for more of creature-based turn pieces and stuff like Nightmare Riders, which I probably should mention is, again, a creature that mills 2 every turn. And then our other 2 are Danny Champs that you pay a mana, they're 4/3. Our mana base is less obscene than Phoenix, because again, you're running less turn spells. So you've got 18 lands, all of these are real lands. A lot of them are paths, so we run 9 paths, and then 5 palaces, and 4 nebula. This is Sultai deck. Your sorceries, you've got your 12 lootings, Oracle's Vision, and Nightmares Unseen, basically just these are the 16 spells you're running if you're building a Phoenix deck that isn't using Whisperwoods, Phoenix style deck. Sideboard, the other 2 Schengen provinces, the other 2 Danny Chips, the other 2 Myogas, Beneath the Zadina, Redoubt, and then 1 of Nature's Claim. Just because you got the space, why not run it? Unearth. Now this is actually a very interesting build of Unearth, because this one card here, Treacherous Warden. Warden. This card is insane. This card, I think I can confidently say that this card is broken. So, what does the card do? Well, it dumps a thing. Actually, let me actually read out what I said about Treacherous Warden on the MSEM server. Warden. Let me pan my OBS to Discord. Oh, OBS, hello? Okay, I guess OBS does not like that. Oh, OBS, why'd you just decide to stop working? I guess we'll swap to a display capture. So, works as Unearth. Treacherous Warden is absurd. Being able to dump the missing piece of itself, unearth, or relive reality, to quickly able to kill the opponent if not exiled. Take my own words for it. Take my own word. Alright, now we're back to here. Again, Ceaseless Stalker is a way to proc the Treacherous Warden. Break our secrets, proc Ceaseless Stalker and Treacherous Warden. This deck is literally Treacherous Warden Turbo. Anthis' Accomplice is technically an unearthed target, but again, it's working well with that Whisperwoods. Then you're running the same mana base as Phoenix, you're just running Murky Path and Den of Ice, as well as Omnis Palace. So your red sources are these. You have quite a good mana base for only running 17 lands and 3 colors. Your instants are 3 Stir the Pot, so obviously you're not running Mina in this deck. This is another Unearth that also pings them for 3. You don't care about the fatigue, since you just mill it away or discard it. Our sorcery, obviously, you've got Unearthed itself, being a, it reanimates a thing with mana value 3 or left, often going to be Treacherous Warden, sometimes Deadwood Terror, which I forgot to mention. Let's take a look at Deadwood Terror. Because this card is 3 2/2s for 1 mana if you unearth it. Because it makes 2 tokens if it enters from graveyard, which is, how can I put this? I think you all can see why that's nuts. Then you've got, like I said, the classic package. You actually run less Glimpse Beyonds because you don't have as much space in this deck. I found 3 Relive was not enough. You run 4 in this deck. Again, this card is great. It gets back to your unearths is the main thing you're actually using it for, but also situationally can get back your lootings or Oracle's Visions. Sideboard, beneath the Zadina, Fire Racher, Spell Pierce, Readout, there should not be that is not supposed to be there, because this should be 15 sideboard cards. But yeah, you see this. And then I believe that is actually it for the slideshow, which, oh my god. How long was that? Only 41 minutes? That's a long time, but it's less long than I thought it would be. I thought this would be at least an hour, to be honest. But, closing thoughts. What do I have to say? Well, this is going to be more of a 1 year of MSEM thing than a talking about Phoenix thing, because we've been into Phoenix enough. I think I've showed off how the deck works, what it does, and how you guys can play it. Actually, you know what? What was I saying? Let's take a look at the Phoenix month. Phoenix month. GP archive. It was this one. GP Hydra, that one. Oh my god. Let's go to the very bottom, the last deck, or second last deck. Net Dex Phoenix by Pipsqueak wins the GP against Heart Attack. Wow. Hi. You're in Top Cut against Zangi. I did make a deck building mistake. Let's look at these. Mina, this used to have Flash, not Slipstream, got nerfed. Myoga Firebird, the heart and soul of the deck. We love this card. We're not running Whisperwords Phoenix at the Black Sea. Oh my god, I miss this card so much. Oh, I miss this. Reduction, instead let you free cast if you cast both spells. Trigger change from copying for free. This got like 4 nerfs. Or 3 nerfs. Or 2 nerfs rather. 2 nerfs and a buff, not 4. What am I talking about? Used to be legendary. It used to be free cast if you cast the red and blue spell. And it used to not have to pay its mana cost to copy. Those were the days. Those were the days. Got banned in that month. And then got unbanned when a rework happened. Next up is Zerat. Yep, again, insane type of tool. Very good. I already went into it. Data recovery. This used to be X and a 1, reduced by 2. Let's take a look at its change log. This was another way to get Phoenix on turn 2. Yeah, it also was a sorcery. This used to be another way to get your Phoenixes out on turn 2 by just recasting another thing back. Now, Mina is functionally your only good way. You also technically have, because this card's actually good. You do have Through the Ashen Gate. to be able to yoga on turn 2 now. But this card is bad. Spirit Script works with against the waves. Also nerfed, used to mill 2+X. Grave Salvage, also nerfed, used to be an instant, which made your Minas much better. Yeah. 15 lands. 15 lands is all you need. This is a classic sideboard I was actually running. I used to run. I swapped out the Soul Pierces for some other stuff. I swapped into 4 readouts, but 4 Erasure, 4 Spell Pierce, 4 readout. That's basically my classic 12 sideboard cards that I put in all my Phoenix decks until I started actually innovating them. Because I really didn't pay much attention to my sideboard for a while. And then obviously here, instead of running Data Recovery, I was running 2 Oracles and 2 Relive Reality. And if we take a look at the more recent GP that I was running Phoenix, which is GPL, I believe, I managed to make top cut, lost in a bad matchup. We went 4 with this Screech, 1 Distant Thunder. Wade through, this card should not be in the deck, it is unbelievably bad. Relive Reality, 2 of should be 4, because it should have cut the way through. It's for Relive. In sideboard, we see the more evolved version of the sideboard with Spell Pierces, Zerats, Power Jams. Now, let's talk about a year. It's been a year, again. I just genuinely can't believe it. It's insane. I don't know. When I started this, I was pretty much just exclusively, playing a ton of league games of MSEM. Now I've made my own set. I've submitted that set. I've made 2 sets so far. One is absolute garbage. I made right when I started playing Magic, actually, which is like 6 months after I started playing Magic or something. It's terrible. It's unbalanced. And then, I took everything I knew from that. I learned from that. Took everything that, I had gotten helped with some. I guess I can call these people my friends, which is insane to think about. That have, given me advice on designing, and I've managed to come up with. It's not the best. It was a terrible set at first, but I've revised it, and I'd like to think it's at least a decent set. And that set is a Shattered Sword. It's been submitted. I'm working on a 3rd set now. Which, stay tuned about that. I might be making more news about that in the future. But, yeah. Thanks, everyone, and bye. See you, hopefully, for another year. And we'll see what happens. Bye.